Hey there, Heck and King are on vacation this week, but we do have two great conversations from past episodes. One with Mark Johnson, formerly of South Bend Riley and South Bend LaSalle, and Doug Barnbrook, the current head coach at South Bend Clay. We'll be back next Monday at 6:30 with a normal show on broadcastsport.net, and we may have something later in this week on our YouTube channel. To stay up to date with all of that, go to our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at IND Coaches Corner, or you can go to linktree.com/IND Coaches Corner, and that has everywhere we are.
We are back with the coach of the Clay Colonials.
Okay, I got one question.
What?
Can your mama dance and can your daddy do some rock and roll?
You know what? I had to dance this weekend for that, the father-daughter dance. Oh, my gosh.
I bet you were stepping it out there. I know you were.
No, I did the...
You didn't have some drinks in you and you're stepping it out?
I did this, 1, 2, 3, twirl.
Oh, man.
And then I did one of these.
I believe John would be stepping it out. I mean, just how I see John moving and doing a little Detroit leaning when we got stuff rolling.
It was as predicted.
I'm sorry about that, but go ahead.
No, we're just living. Doug and I go way back. He played for me on my first teams coming to South Bend. So I just thought we'd go back. One of the things I wanted to ask you, oh, by the way, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
How many? Well, first, let me do this. How many years have you been the head coach at Clay?
This is my fifth season.
Fifth year, okay, fifth year. So we're going to get to that. Mm-hmm. All right. I came here in the 90s when they decided to keep Adams open. You were part of all that drama that was going on. You were probably, 8th, 9th grade. You went through a bunch of coaches as you're like 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. You
had 4 coaches in about 6 years from when I was in middle school till when I graduated.
Yeah, and I think my first year was your junior year.
96, 97, I think, was your first year.
Yeah,
yep.
And you were a junior with a good group of kids that had come through junior high or middle school with some pretty good success. One of the questions I was going to ask you, who from that group, now I was always told there were several guys that bailed on you guys that ended up, they were going to close Adams and sell it to IUSB. So, and then they decided not to. And this was also right after the teacher strike, I believe in like 93, 94 up here, which was a real mess. I wasn't here then. But who from that group left and went to Penn? Was it Maudlin and somebody else? Do you remember off the top of your head, or when did they go? Or
I do not remember anybody who left because they thought Adams was going to close at the time. And so, I mean, there might have been some younger kids that I didn't know about, but
your group
as far
stayed
as our
intact.
Group, we were going to stay at Adams, and
because you had it was you, Armando, the twins, Luke Fee and Labib, AJ. Who else was in that group of seniors? Because you guys were the seniors. Dysert came in from someplace else.
Yeah, he transferred from Trinity.
Trinity, that's right. That's right.
You guys are getting transfers even way back, man.
He was at
Come on.
Trinity. It
doesn't matter.
It just happened.
You're recruiting all the way back there.
It just happened he was 6'8".
This was not the transfer portal, I assure you.
So what was your record?
And then I think we were under maybe 9-12.
I think it was 9-12.
I think we were one and done. That was the first year they didn't have the sectional at Notre Dame. It was the last year of one class, and we had to go to Washington. And I think Cedric Moody was playing for Washington, and I think we were one and done over there. I think it was like 80-70 or something. Yep. Tuesday night, see you later.
That was your junior year?
My junior year, yep.
So then the next year as seniors, I think we were 2-6 in the conference, get to the sectional, and we made a lot of people mad that year because my second year, we won the sectional. It was the first year of class basketball. We had the sectional at Penn, and Clay was good, and I think Riley was good.
Yeah. Clay, Riley probably would have been the favorites to win it.
As I recall. We were 2-6 in the conference and won the sectional. I think we beat Riley.
We ended up 12-12, I think, or something on the season, and won sectional, lost in the regional to LaPorte.
Well,
but and we just started playing our best basketball at the right time.
And I think we beat Riley, which had Steve Reynolds.
Yep, Steve Reynolds and
Sean Henderson.
Sean Henderson.
Who are their guards? I don't even remember who was the guards on that Riley team.
Jeff Steele, I believe, was one of their guards.
And Debates was the coach, right?
Yes.
Debates was over at Riley. And then Friday night we played LaSalle, I believe. Didn't they have
Yep.
the Ivory Twins?
They had the Ivory Twins,
And Mark Johnson was coaching. He was over at LaSalle, and that was a surprise. We weren't supposed to beat them. We dreamed up. We played man all year.
So is this where your coaching philosophy was formed? With Patrick J. King?
He will never admit this, but we came up with we played matchup zone. I started thinking, okay, Bill Green, so we took our man-to-man stuff, and really all we did was let Armando and Antoine Banks, they did whatever they wanted to, and if they started chasing people, the guys behind, these guys played zone because they didn't know what was going to happen, and then if something else happened, it was either a 1-3-1 or a 2-3, depending on if there was a point or if there were two guys out front. And these guys he and Sizemore and Craig Williams just sat back there and just kind of played, the outfield and just caught whatever, needed to be caught. And nobody knew what we were doing, including us.
Who did you beat in the championship game then?
Clay.
Yeah, we beat
in overtime.
They had Lincoln Glass.
Who went to Auburn, and he just was he's in the Hall of Fame.
And Springer hit a bunch of threes to keep it close there. We got a nice sized lead, and then Springer was bombing away threes, and
then we won in overtime, and then we went to Michigan City and we played a 1-game regional, and we played LaPorte, and they had Tonagel and Draben on the team, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
And they had Tonagel and Draben, and they won. And then they went over to Lafayette, and I think they had to play Crown Point or somebody in the semi-state, which we were talking about. They had 2 games in the afternoon and 1 at night. As we called it then, the old-fashioned semi-state. So
what did you do after high school? Did you go play at the next level anywhere?
I did not play at the next level. I went to Ball State, got my teacher's degree, and came back. I actually did my student teaching here.
What year were you at Ball State?
I was there from, I guess it would have been 98 to about 2002.
Okay. So what relation is Tim Barnbrook to you?
That is my dad.
Tim Barnbrook played when we played.
Yeah,
I want to say. Your dad was a great player, by the way. And I hope he's watching this because he was long. He could shoot it.
He will now if he's not watching.
He knows it's archived.
He'll be like, "Well, they mentioned me."
And Grandpa had been the coach prior.
Yeah, I remember.
Grandpa was the coach before Hadaway.
But I remember Tim Barnbrook. He was a really special player. Talk about. Okay, spend a minute now talking. So then, I mean, you go into the coaching career. You ended up helping Coach King, didn't you, for a minute or two?
So probably coached with Pat for, I think it was 9 years at Adams. I was freshman.
That was more than a minute.
Yeah, it was
2 minutes.
We played you a couple times.
He came to the Wig.
You came to the Wig?
As a player and as a coach. Yeah.
Explain that to our listeners. What that was like.
It was my senior year. We went to the Wigwam for the first time, and you guys were really good that year. I think you had 2 weeks prior had just been on ESPN and one of the holiday classes.
That was the DeMatha game.
Yeah, and so you were good that year, and we knew that coming in. But I knew it was special for Coach, being that he was from there and everything, and he got a Cardinal bus, and normally we were riding a cheese bus, and he was like, "Oh, we're gonna go in style to Anderson." So I knew this is a little different game, And so we roll up, and the Wigwam with all its tradition, and the ceremony beforehand. It was neat. I was glad that I could experience it as a player and everything. I think we then lost by 20-25.
It was ugly.
Yeah, but it was a good experience. Then going back, I knew what to expect as a coach. I think we went there maybe 2 or 3 times and
I think I sent you something today about the Oregon procurement game it was like in 2011. That was our last trip down there.
It's our last trip.
He was
last trip.
coaching.
It's the Oregon donation game. It's the biggest thing that I promote every year.
Sure.
And he comes in with his little guards and he takes it to us and beats us that game.
I remember that. Yeah.
And we won somehow.
You had some great quick guards.
But you were with me. And then I went to Southern Indiana, and you stayed and coached with Coop, right?
Yep. I was in about another 6-7 years, coached with Cooper, Milt Cooper. And then I was an assistant at IUSB for a year, and then I got hired here at Clay.
So now, as I'm looking through or going through your resume, and I'm looking through your years coaching at Clay, you've had some lean years, okay? I mean, anybody can read the numbers and see that. Now I'm looking at your numbers, and the Colonials are 6-5. you're over 500, you're playing really good basketball, and so you're coming off of a deal where you were getting drilled, and now you're respectable, and now you're. So are your kids listening to you 100% more now that you're seeing success? I mean, you coached your brains out when you weren't winning, and you're still coaching your brains out when you're winning. How's that affect on your players now that you're winning?
Yeah, I think, this group and just every year you just get better at all the little things, and, eventually it starts swinging in the right direction. And just, overall, the guys this year just play better team basketball, share the ball more. And so it's not just, one thing that really leads to it, but just a lot of little things this group does maybe a lot better than the previous years. And it helps too. This is probably, the most talented group that I've had. And, Amir Harris, senior, he's averaging 18, I think, right now, has just been very consistent for us. And so that helps to have, your best player, senior leader, and everyone else kind of follow behind him.
Yeah, I think that's outstanding. I think it's outstanding how a young coach would come in here and work hard to lay his foundation, his groundwork with your philosophies and not have success, and then continue to do that, continue grinding, because we all know it's a grinding deal. You grind, and then all of a sudden you start to see the fruits of your work ethic. Everything starts to pay off. So I can't tell you how happy I am for you, because I know your background. I know anybody that's played for Coach King and been around and worked for him. I know you have great philosophies, and I know you love the game of basketball. So I'm extremely happy for you, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, that's the thing I was going to say. Is I'm kind of proud because one of my players, one of the guys that has come through my assistant coaches and things like that. Here he is, as a head coach now, and just finally having a little bit of success too. So. And, Antoine Banks is down at IUPUI, and they're just getting their brains beat in. But he's been a head coach in North Kentucky. And so looking at that, Jimmy Seitz is over at Adams. He's in administration now. He's one of the principals. He came in right after you did. So I've got my footprint on the.
Oh, you got a coaching tree, man. You got a coaching tree out there.
Bit, good, bad, or otherwise.
I think it's great. I think it's awesome. Now
so here's what's going to happen. He's doing the game tonight. So He's gonna go follow you to the gym, put a headset on. He's getting ready to do the ball game.
And here's what I'm gonna say: Barnbrook don't know what he's doing, man. What's he doing? What's he doing?
Clay needs a timeout. Why isn't he calling a timeout?
No, so
right.
I'll be switching headsets. So what's your thoughts on the caveman tonight? You got 30 seconds to answer this question.
So they're very well coached. It's going to be a challenge for us. They're off to a great start. I think they're 11-2 right now, and so
they're doing well.
I think they've won their last 6-7 in a row. So they've been playing some good basketball. So we have to be ready. We had a close game last year over at their place, and so lost by 3. And so we're confident we can compete with them, but we're going to have to play our best basketball to have a chance to win there at the end.
Yeah, I think you can compete with them also. You're looking good, man. So a lot of coaches, they wear tennis shoes now. They don't. You look great.
This is actually business casual for him because normally he's in a suit and tie.
Yeah, normally a suit and tie. So this is more like dressed down for me.
You look great, man.
Well, thank you.
Please tell your dad that I said hey.
Oh, I will.
And Thursday you got to put up with me. The two of us will be over at Riley for your game on Riley. So you guys tell your kids you're on the air twice this week. You guys have hit the big time.
A lot of media requests this week.
Yeah, press credentials.
All right, man. Good luck tonight. Thanks for jumping in with us.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, no problem.
So, we're going to talk some other high school hoops here.
We can. If you need to go.
Yeah,
we're kind of low class. You can sit here if you want, or you can go.
No, I better get out there and catch the JV game.
You better get going. That's right.
We got the great Mark Johnson on the line here. Are you kidding me? We'll get back to these scores in a second. Marky, what's going on, man?
I tell you what, Rod. It's amazing. I want to tell you today, I was out at the mall, walking around, just blending in with all the crowds.
You never blend in. Stop that.
And I got a phone call, and I recognized your name. So I was all excited. I said, man, Ron's calling me. So I fumbled to get my phone out, and I hear Mark. He said, yeah. Hey, this is Ron. I'm trying to get a hold of your brother, Chris. And I said, my heart sank. And I said, no. I said, I don't have his number with me right now. And Ron comes out and says, Mark, well, how about it? Will you be on my show tonight. And so all of a sudden, I was so excited just to hear from you. And you talk about feeling like Mr. Irrelevant. That was me. But you picked me up and you said, okay, you can do it. So thank you, my friend.
And we
I feel
all,
relevant again.
And we all know that didn't happen, man, because, 36-year run as a head coach, was just tremendous. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. You started out at Lewis Cass and at Northwestern and Bishop Dwenger as a head coach?
I was there. That was my place. And really, Ron, our careers really paralleled each other an awful lot, to where I started out as an assistant. I was very, very fortunate to hook on with George Griffith at LaSalle from 77 to 82. And without George Griffith, there would have been Mark Johnson when it comes to basketball. He was phenomenal. Had a chance. I went to Lewis Cass and I went to Bishop Dwenger and had success in both of the places, but especially at Dwenger. I inherited a group of kids who really, really knew how to play the game and really were fun to coach. We got beat by Sean Kemp in the semi-state, and
wow.
I have a tradition of not doing very good against big men in the semi-state. I think Kemp had 40 points and 47 rebounds against us. And then we turned around when I was at Riley. We played Biggie Swanigan, and I think he had 50 points and 57 rebounds against us. So I always thought, the next time we play, somebody else is going to work on the defense. Coached in college for a couple years at Valparaiso. Didn't really enjoy it very much.
So you and I had that same experience, because at the same time you were coaching at Valpo, I was an assistant coach at Ball State, and
that's where we just ran into each other.
And we would run into each other, recruiting the same players, and always talking about that.
That was Doug Mitchell, Doug Mitchell out of Indianapolis. And I can remember we were sitting up at Rensselaer at the 5-star camp or whatever it was at the ice cream place, sitting there thinking, what in the heck are we doing here? Just doing this. And we, again, misery loves company. Well, he did pretty good. He ended up going, back to Indianapolis. He was at North Central, and again, a Hall of Fame career, no different than yours. And I was fortunate to come back to South Bend, and this is where, I ended in South Bend. So it's been a great journey.
South Bend LaSalle was you came back and were the head coach at LaSalle, right?
That is correct. Again, funny but not funny. The first years I came back, they only won 1 or 2 games the year before I got there, and I asked Griff that, should I come back? And he said, they only won 1 or 2 games. Hell, you could do better than that. Well, we didn't win a game. The first year there, we did not win a game. And I had one of the best head coaches in the state of Indiana now. He was my assistant and also worked for you, Rob Berger. And Rob and I were thinking that we were going to turn the world around and, get this thing really moving. Well, the first year we didn't. And great learning experience. Was I disappointed? I have told people before, I would wish that on my worst enemy, but no one else. Going overseas was really, really tough. But we go from, I think it was from 0 to 8 to 12 to 16. And we had it turned really pretty good. And so I love South Bend. And only one person told me that LaSalle wasn't the same, and that was the late, great, Harry Lewandowski. And when I was offered a job, I called Harry and a lot of my inner circle friends that had the pulse. And the first thing he said, Mark, he said, this is not the same South Bend LaSalle. And it took me 2 minutes to walk into the hallway the first day of school, and I realized it wasn't the same. But it was a lifelong dream to be the head coach, to follow, in the footsteps of Bob Rensberger and George Leonakis, George Griffith. I followed Nat Pittman. And that was, I think that's all the coaches that were there. And I'll go to my grave saying that the city of South Bend did the city an injustice when they closed LaSalle. It was a very important part of that side of town, but nobody asked me. And so they made their decision, and then we moved on.
That's the side of town that I grew up on, and a lot of the kids that were at LaSalle were friends of mine, and I mean, just lifelong friends. And I chose to go to St. Joe because my brother was at St. Joe, and but so George Griffith leaves LaSalle and becomes the head basketball coach at Richmond High School, correct?
That is correct. And that was in 1982. And that was my last year there in 5 years. And what they had in 1982, they had what they now call the consent decree. And there was an awful lot of teachers and a lot of the students were moved around from a standpoint because they had to have so many whites, so many blacks, so many Latinos, I mean, all the way around. And I was laid off then. And so what I did, I moved on. I chose not to get involved in any litigation or anything. And back then, Ronnie, when you're young and full of vim and vigor, if they don't want me, I don't want them. And so I left. Well, I had some people in the administrative departments from downtown to the LaSalle administration that just basically said, Mark, it didn't work this time, but the next time there's an opening, you will be the person that we will make a call to. And it took 10 years, until a position opened up as the head coach at LaSalle. And Alex Benko was the athletic director at that time. And I got a phone call and said, Mark, we'd like you to come up and talk. And so I was driving. We were driving from, I don't even know where it was at then, Fort Wayne, I think. I don't know. But my car broke down in Lakeville. And I started to hitchhike. Here's a guy with a three-piece suit and a briefcase. And I stuck my thumb out, and really one of the first cars that stopped by was a board member of, LaBelle High School. And he asked what I was doing, and I told him, and they drove me up. And when I sat down and talked to the people in the interview committee, I said, I bet I'm the only person in this entire corporation that literally walked to get this job. And that's what I did. And lo and behold, I'm making a short story extremely long. I was offered the job with the blessing of my wife. We went back to LaSalle, never to leave again. And that's kind of, how my story was.
That's a great story. Give me a couple names of your favorite players at LaSalle during that time period.
Well, again, you don't start talking about LaSalle until you mention, one name, and that's David Magley.
Oh, yeah.
The Heklinskis and the Magleys are, those names are big-time names on that side of town. And so David was special. I mean, he taught me so much more than I ever thought about teaching him. I go back and I think of just that run as an assistant. We had Donnie Gandy, we had Brian Hubbard, Doug Meyer, Reggie Bird, Demetrius Buchanan, Steve Kingsbury. I mean, just really, really special people. Then when I came back again, you start your program no different when you went to Anderson. I mean, the tradition was just unbelievable, a tradition. And you say one name, and man, I forgot this name. Well, then I had to kind of start my own, and it started with Corey Sutherland. And Corey Sutherland was as good as a basketball player that I ever coached. Then we started to move on, and we had Chris Troop, and I go on, and James Williams, and I mean, there are just so many of them. Ronnie Watuski, just really, really good players that not only are good players, but now I consider good friends.
That's great. That's great. And then you move over to Riley High School.
Went over to Riley with the I don't know, I guess with the caveat that I was not guaranteed a job anywhere. And so for the people who when LaSalle closed, you were in just kind of like a pool. And I wanted to coach, and if I wasn't going to coach, I was going to leave. And Tommy DeBates had retired, and that kind of opened that position up. And so when that position opened, I slid over there, and I took some players with me. Vincent Van, who probably is one of the greatest leaders and basketball players that I ever coached. Brandon Dixon came with me, and there was like 4 or 5 of those. We were able to blend those people with maybe one of the best shooters that I had ever coached in my life, with Marcus Shelton. Vince Shelton's father, Vince Shelton was his father, who was an excellent player at Riley for Bob Berger. We had Andy Harris, just a lightning quick guard whose dad played at Adams. And so there was really, what we had was a really good mix of bringing over from LaSalle and carrying over from what Tommy had at Riley, and we had a really, really good ball club that year. And we got beat, I think it was a double overtime in the regional finals by Maryville, which I worked for Jim East, and so that was kind of a bittersweet, ending. I mean, we were good enough, Ron, to win the state.
So I know. So
we had a lead, and we let it
So
get
I
away.
know. I know that you worked for Jim East at Connersville High School, right?
Well, I student taught for Jim.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's what I did there. And again, this is kind of comparing, like Brookville High School was Mayberry and Connersville was Mount Pilot. I mean, that was the big city. And, they had just come off a state championship in '72, and Jim took over for Myron Dickerson, who went to Muncie Northside. And Jim and I were just, I played against Connersville, and Jim and I knew each other, and it kind of went real well. And it was just very, very positive. And then my brother worked for Jim, I think, for 3 or 4 or 5 years in Maryville before he went out on his own. And so we have a very close relationship with the East family. And Jim passed away, I lose track of time, 3, 4, 5 years ago, and he's greatly missed by all.
You had great success at Riley. You won 246 games, and you lost 130. And I know you had some great players over that tenure at Riley, right?
Yeah, we did. I mean, and we had some great times. And Ron, I only had 1 year, I think, in my whole career, and that goes to Riley, to where I just didn't have an enjoyable year, even though we had a really, really good basketball team. And when you kind of went through it, I mean, we had it going. We were on a run. I think we won 5 or 6 sectionals there. And the year that I left, and this is all public record, so I'm not saying anything that is out of line, but the reason I left, and I left an undefeated team, from a standpoint, I was told how many players I had to keep in my program, and I was told who I had to keep in my program. And I told the administration then, if I have to do this, I'm gone, I'm leaving. And at the end of the year, I left.
And in leaving, you left a potential state championship team with Demezy Anderson and a couple other, great players, right? You there?
Sunday started much for us, but he was 6th or 7th man, to where we went Demezy's freshman year. Shamar Dillard, there was Riantre Lawrence, Jaden Grundy, and Junior Scott. We had 1 senior, 2 juniors, and 2 freshmen that started, and then we had a senior that sub for us, and then we had a freshman that sub for us. And that year, again, when you start to go back to different things, we were getting our hats handed to us. But they just kept coming, and sometimes the kids would get down. I said, guys, before you see the rainbow, you have to deal with the rain. I said, we're going to be good. It's just not going to be today. Well, towards the end of January, man, we got good. And then once February hit and then March hit, we were good. I mean, we were legitimately good. And one of the greatest victories, all wins are good, don't get me wrong, but some are better than others. But I think we played Penn during the regular season, and Penn was really good. And I think they beat us 142-2. Or if it wasn't that way, it seemed like that. Well, we got into the sectional that year, and we were playing well. And I think Al had it again. I think they won close to 20 games. And we got them in the sectional championship. And I know no different than what George Griffith said to me my first year at LaSalle with Magley. We were getting ready to, to go into the sectional. And our goal was, Griff said, let's get in the sectional championship. Let's be on live TV. And let's let the kids get to understand what this is like. Because they had a pretty good team on the east side of town, Adams, who was undefeated. And that was with Lynn Mitchum and Leroy Sutton and Heron and all of those guys. Well, lo and behold, the best team doesn't always win in the sectional. And Clay, coached by Tom Hess, had Tom Butler, had Mark Tarner, and that group, well, they knocked off Adams. And so all of a sudden, when that happened, the whole city all of a sudden, man, everybody's got a chance to win it now. And so we got in the sectional championship game against Clay, and we were able to squeak out. I think Bagley had 38 of our 40 points in that game, and we ended up winning. Well, to go back to my story, we kind of talked about, if we can just with this group win a couple games in the sectional and let's get there, at least get a taste of it. Well, lo and behold, we just didn't get a taste of it. We won. And we beat Penn for the sectional championship, which was unbelievable high for us. We then won the regional, and then we had to play my brother with Biggie Swanigan. And if you watch the NFL, they had a pretty good player also is now playing for the Los Angeles Rams, Skoranek, I think that's his name.
Yeah, the wide receiver.
Had, Geist, who played at Missouri, who's playing overseas. They had men, and we had boys, and they beat us. Well, the following year we won the sectional. Then the following year we got beat in overtime in the sectional by Adams, who happened to win, and then that was the year that we left and we knew we were going to be good. And I told the kids when it was final with our very last meeting, I said, guys, this is in all probability going to be the last team that I ever coached. And I'm really proud of you. And I explained to them, and they knew. And I said, I'm not asking you to understand, but I'm asking you to accept why I had to do this. And one of the things, Ron, as a coach, and I know Pat will say the same thing, it's there, that you have to make sure you just don't talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk. And one of the things that we've always told our teams, do things not because it's easy, do things because it's right. And if I would have stayed with that team just because it was going to be good, I wouldn't have ever been able to talk to those kids again. And that was, the easy part of it. The hard part of it was, a team that won 26 ball games. And if you look in a selfish way, those 26 wins, I would have been over 500. I stopped at 475, and 500 is a magic number. And that would have been nice, but it didn't happen. I was happy with it. Took a year off. I was kind of doing what you were doing with Paul Condry, be on some radios, do some radio stuff. But then all of a sudden, the principal, Susan Richter, and the athletic director, Deb Brown, who I do want to say are probably two of the finest administrators I have ever worked for, said that I lost my mind. Mike Bauer, who is now at New Prairie, has decided to resign. Would you like this? And I said, I don't know. I said, I went through it once. I was good with my decision. I don't know. Well, the more I thought of this, the more I talked to my wife. I talked to some of my inner circles, and they said, Mark, do you want to coach? And I said, yeah. I said, well, then you do it. And one of the things that I think, Ron, when you decided to retire the second time at Mishawaka, my question is, could you still coach at a high level? And the answer is yes. Could you still make an impact on the kids and the people that you taught and coached? The answer was yes. And did you still enjoy what you were doing? The answer was yes. Well, I was 3 for 3 in the same way. And so I said, okay, I can do this. And so I only taught 1 or 2 classes. I did lunchroom duty, which I absolutely loved. And for all the coaches that say, man, I don't want to never do that, you're crazy. This is where you get relationships with the student body. You get to see your players every day. And it's amazing how less an idiot your players will act when the head coach is looking them right in the eye. And so that part was positive. and we ended on a semi-good run, but we got beat in a real tough game in the semi-state by Leo, and by 2 points or 1 point maybe, and that was a tough one because I knew then it was over. And,
you got beat 61-59, and
yeah, thanks for bringing that up, buddy.
Yeah. That's Ron. Ron said that, by the way.
And you were poised really to win that game and finish your career at the state championship level, correct?
Well, that's 100% correct, and I really had some very good communications with your old boss and your old coach, Bob Donowald, and I was getting emails from him. And I'm thinking, that was like getting an email from Moses.
That's a good point.
Receiving an email. How did he get my email? How did I do that? Well, your brother, I'm sure, had an awful lot to do with that, or as you. And I told him when it was all over, and he sent me a very, very nice email. And I said, I wanted to go out like Al McGuire. And he kicked back and kind of like, ha-ha, if IU wouldn't have had Scotty May break his arm, there would not have been an Al McGuire.
That's
there
true.
There would have been IU.
Yeah, back-to-back IU.
Would not have won that. Well, and I agree with that, but I do think if we would have got by that game, I think we could have been a very tough out as well. But all you can do is kind of like dream about it. I told our players when this was all over, I said, let it go. Don't dismiss it, and don't make excuses for anybody. And there's a big difference between dismissing and letting it go. Dismiss, I don't care. Oh, yeah, we all cared. But letting it go, it took me quite a while to let that go. But until you brought it up, I only think about it,
Yeah, I apologize.
A year, not 365.
Hey, I apologize. Hey, listen, I want to just tell you, we're up against a break here, but, the way you coached, the way you had relationships with all of the coaches in the area, you were certainly a pro, and, anytime you were going to go against the Mark Johnson coach team, the other team was going to be as prepared as your team was. So congratulations on a great career, and as a basketball coach, but you're a better person than that, Mark. And I've always felt that way about you.
Well, God love you, Ronnie. And really, what you just said mirrors you, from this standpoint that we had some good battles. And they were fun, and we had great careers together where we run in. And no difference than Pat when he was at Adams. We had just great games, and there was always a great respect with Rob Berger and with Bob Berger, going against them. And, that's what makes, and I don't know who told me this, and I know you have to go, but it's not so much the wins and the losses, but it's the relationships and the memories that you have during that. And one of the things that my wife had done, and she's been through this with me all the way through, from college, and one of the things that she's always done, she's always kept scrapbooks. And until we had kids and she started to work, until she started to say, Mark, you can do that, I don't have enough time, she always kept a scrapbook of everything with that, and that was like the George Griffith era. And someday, we'll have that out to where somebody can come and, take a look and read, okay, this is what these teams were back then. And to go back, and I'll let you go right now, but thank you so much for making me feel relevant again, and thanks so much for calling me, and hopefully we'll get a chance to run into each other.
Mark, the one thing I would like to tell you is just to remind you, our summer school days, just remind yourself, it was almost like stealing, wasn't it?
Well, it wasn't like stealing. It was actually stealing money.
That a boy. Good for that. Yep.
It was one of the greatest adventures, Pat, that we ever had.
Summer school PE.
Better than that is when, I won't mention the name, but where there was a person that wanted to have the rest station during phys ed.
Yes.
And it didn't get any better than that.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Actually stealing money. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. See you.